Welcome, dear friend, once again to Arkham Horror, the card game. This time, where doom awaits, Scenario 6. Scenario 6, which is really Scenario 7. But it's our 7th episode anyway. Last time round we failed pretty miserably, to be honest. Zoe even has a mental trauma to contend with now, which is exactly the type of trauma that you don't want to get on Zoe Samaras, the chef. She only now has 5 sanity, max, just entirely inappropriate. Yes, we failed. Four brood escaped into the wild. I'll be honest, gang, I haven't really enjoyed too much the last 2 scenarios. Of course, it's fun to record and it's fun to make mistakes just in the playing of Arkham so that I can learn more, because, usually you learn by getting things wrong, I guess. So it's good for those points, and it's still kind of enjoyable to move through the campaign. But the mechanics I didn't like. Blood on the Altar wasn't exactly bad, but I just didn't really see the point of it. And then the last episode, or the last scenario, Undimensioned and Unseen, the odds felt insurmountable. I feel like it was very investigator dependent somehow. I feel like if you had high willpower investigators to start off with, which Zoe's not bad, but Rex is very much not a high intellect. A high willpower. I'm just going to say high head. Zoe has decent head. Rex has low to middle or medium head. If you don't have that high head to deal with the broods, I just don't see how you would be able to progress in a meaningful way. And I would be very, very surprised if anyone with these 2 investigators could get any more than 3. I bet people who are much better than me could get 3. It doesn't feel like you have enough. The clue mechanic to reveal the broods is cool, and I love the idea of it, but the implementation of it didn't feel great. I struggled to see how you would have enough clues unless you had ridiculously high-head investigators. Anyway, I'm talking in circles, I'm going over the same point. The point being, I feel oddly energized about this episode, or in this scenario. I feel like the only way is up, and I'm gonna be reinvigorated to enjoy the game after this. By the way, Zebulon Waitley is dead, and we have 4 survivors, so that part of the campaign, that part of the cycle, I feel like we've done a good job on. So it's not all bad. Not too much to do really, apart from go through our upgrades from that last scenario. We only got 3 experience, so I'll take you over to Arkham Build now. Zoe Samaras got rid of Flashlight and took an Elder Sign Amulet. I'm happy that I thought of this. This is an accessory, which is slightly annoying. It's an accessory that takes up the slot that Zoe's cross wants to go in, so I don't know how that's going to resolve. But this is an accessory that has 2 costs. It's an item relic, and you have 4 sanity soak from it, which is really, really important. Now that we're down to 5 max sanity on Zoe. The hope is, I guess the ideal situation is you draw Elder Sign Amulet first, completely obliterate it with all that sanity damage, and then put it in your discard pile. You've basically soaked 4 mental damage for 2 cost, which feels wildly efficient, or a wildly efficient way of doing that. And then you pull out Zoe's Cross, and Zoe's Cross does what Zoe's Cross should do, and does a load of damage to enemies. We'll see how it goes. Got rid of Flashlight. Honestly, Zoe has maybe found about 4 clues so far. 2 of them from Drawn to the Flame, and then what have we got in evidence? Maybe 1 from evidence. She is hardly ever, thinking about it, I haven't seen evidence drawn. Hardly ever, nor have I seen Prepared for the Worst hardly ever, nor have I seen Vicious Blows. But anyway, the point being, Zoe does not need a flashlight. If she's going to investigate, she's got 2 Right of Seekings, 2 evidences, 2 Drawn to the Flames. I think that's good enough. The flashlight was kind of dead weight, really. And then for Rex, got rid of the powder of Ibn Ghazi because we had to, that story asset gone. We threw away a manual dexterity and put in a preposterous sketches. This might seem strange, and I think it is strange, but we already have, scroll down a bit, we've got this freezing variant of strange solution that covers the evasion side of things somewhat. We then also have, where is he? Where's our man Earl Sawyer? We also have Earl Sawyer, who covers the flighty, the flying boot, the evasion side of things. He also covers that. He adds 1 onto Rex's 3 boot, taking him to quite a respectable 4 boot. So we got rid of manual dexterity. I feel like card draw is more important than I have given it credit for, so I threw in something just to mean that we can mill a little bit more. Who cares if Rex gets through his whole deck? All that will happen is he'll take 1 mental damage, but we'll have had more cards to play with, and we'll have had more commit icons, and I think everything just seems to work better when you have access to more cards, especially probably on Seeker. Although, as we've seen 10 times so far, having more card draw on a Guardian would be wildly more useful, which is where Cryptic Research comes in. Anyway, Preposterous Sketches means we now have 2 of them, and ironically, I think I got rid of Preposterous Sketches somewhere early. No, I just had one included at the start, it seems. And also, we upgraded our other deduction to a level 2 deduction. Can't go wrong with more clues on Rex Murphy. And that's it. I'm actually finding that I'm running out of upgrade ideas with these decks. Not with these decks specifically, but with the card pool that I've got access to. I think in the tutorial campaign, it was basically there were no interesting decisions to be made with regards to upgrading cards or upgrading the deck, because the card pool was just so small. And then in Dunwich, it's obviously got a bit bigger, and there are interesting decisions to be made early on. But it feels like at this late stage in the scenario, I don't really know what else I can shove into these decks. There's not really any truly game-changing cards that are left. I think one more Cryptic Research might be nice, but apart from that, I'm kind of out of ideas, really. Let's go back to Tabletop Simulator and let's start reading, and then we'll start playing. And here we go. Scenario 6, where doom awaits. You awaken to the sound of screeching. Fearing the worst, you grab your equipment and head out into the streets of Dunwich. As soon as you step outside, you sense a foulness in the cold night air, an awful, pungent smell that can scarcely be described, and a heaviness to the atmosphere that makes it difficult to breathe. The citizens of Dunwich have sealed their doors, and the town feels quiet and lonesome. In the distance, a faint glow emanates from a hilltop above the village. You know of this hill from both your interactions with Zebulon and Armitage's records. It is called Sentinel Hill. The tales speak of satanic rites being performed there, rites in which great ritual pyres light up the night sky while the ground rumbles furiously below. Flocks of whippoorwills perch on the rooftops of the village around you, watching ominously as you climb inside Zebulon's old and beat-up truck. As you drive towards Sentinel Hill, more screeching fills the sky with an awful pitch that is painful to your ears. Everything you have read about and experienced in Dunwich has led to this. If the foul ritual Seth seeks to perform has anything to do with what Armitage and his colleagues prevented several months back, it involves the favour of an ancient creature, Yog Sothoth. Failing to stop this ritual may spell doom, not only Dunwich, but for the entire world. If Naomi has the investigators back, she doesn't. We actually, the O'Banion gang have a bone to pick with us. So we gather all the clues from the following encounter sets. That's been done for us. Put the base of the hill, ascending path, and sentinel peak into play. Base of the hill, ascending path, and sentinel peak. Each investigator begins play at base of hill. From what I know about hills, that makes sense. Remove 1 copy of Diverging Path from the game at random. Set the other 3 copies of Diverging Path aside out of play. So this has sort of been done for us. Let's shuffle, 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 and we'll take away the top 3 altered paths, and also the top, did it say, set them aside out of play? Okay. Now which will we need? Let's see. I'm going to put these down here. Altered path, diverging path, this is altered path. So those are altered paths. These are our diverging paths. Set Seth Bishop aside out of play. He's presumably in here. He is. Don't look at him, spoilers. Based on your difficulty level, add the following chaos tokens to the chaos bank for the remainder of the campaign. We're on standard, which means I have to throw in a -5, which is kind of nasty. Check the campaign log. For each brood of Yog-Sothoth that escaped into the wild, add 1 doom to Agenda 1A. That is disgusting. 4 of them. We've effectively lost 4 turns because we were so dreadfully useless in that last scenario, unfortunately. Depending on the following circumstances, a different version of Act 2 should be used in this scenario. Each other version of Act 2 is removed from the game. Check the campaign log. We didn't restore him, I don't think. No, we banished Silas Bishop. And if the above is not true, check the campaign log. If the investigators failed to recover the Necronomicon, or if the Necronomicon was stolen. No, that's not true because we destroyed the Necronomicon. The Necronominco. Necronominco sounds like some sort of evil corporation. If neither of the above are true, use Act 2, Ascending the Hill. Let's sort that out now while we are on the setup page. Ascending the Hill version 3. So not this either. It's this one. I need to make this bigger. Let's bin off the other 2 so we don't spoil ourselves. Check the campaign log. I love checking the campaign log, and I'm not even being facetious. I love all these after effects. If the investigators put Silas Bishop out of his misery, we didn't, but if we did, we'd have had to put a conglomeration of spheres at the ascending path. Shuffle the rest of that set into the encounter deck. Only if we put Silas Bishop out of his misery, I presume. I think that reads right. And then it says when the game is complete, so we're almost ready to go. We need to put this Act deck back. And talking of Act deck and agenda decks, before we start drawing cards, actually, what's going on with this altered path and diverging path? It feels like I should have done something else, perhaps. Anyway, let's read the agenda and the Act deck. Agenda 1A. Calling forth the old ones. As you approach Sentinel Hill, you hear ancient Latin rites bellowed across the night. The time for action has come. If you cannot stop the sorcerers in Dunwich, who knows what terrors they might unleash upon the world. Act 1A. The Path to the Hill. A vibrant, arcane energy fills the air with a bone-chattling chill. A vibrant, arcane energy fills the air with a bone-rattling chill. The energy swirls along the crushed trail before you and seeps down several other paths before disappearing. I love it. I just love the theme. I can't get enough. Objective: when the investigators have collected the requisite number of clues, that being 4, they must immediately spend them and advance. And there is 12 doom on this first agenda, which means the 4 doom that we added feels slightly less impactful or less of a big deal. Let's go. Let's do this thing. This is weird because this is the second to last scenario. This has the air of a final boss battle. But we'll see how it turns out. 5 cards. Ooh, shuffle, 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 shuffle. Shuffle the encounter deck as well for good measure. 5 cards on. I see now, stupidly, I have put these cards exactly where Rex's hand is going to go. Let's shove them up at the top. Oh, it's got arrows on them. No, we can't be having that. We cannot be having that. Let's put them, just shove them in the top right. Anywhere that's not in the eye line. 5 cards on Zoe and 5 cards on Rex. We drew a Smite the Wicked on Zoe. Let's replace that pronto before we do any mulliganing nonsense. What I do notice is that we added, I just thought to help me remember, I'd put Zoe's mental trauma on the campaign log up to 1, and it has actually affected our starting horror damage. Look at that, fantastic. Righto, Zoe's initial hand is a Guts, a Dr. Henry Armitage, drawn to the flame, emergency aid, and a physical training. And Rex's initial hand is a manual dexterity, inquiring mind, perception, I've got a plan, and a delve too deep. I'm not sure how intrigued I am with delve too deeps at this point. I said in the intro, didn't I, that I'm sort of out of ideas about what to spend the experience on. And this, I just get the vibe that this is going to be a difficult scenario, hopefully more fun than the last scenario I found difficult. But might be worth not pulling, are there any other abominations in the encounter deck? I'm not really sure, but there's hideous ones that could have spawned, so we need to just be wary of the encounter deck. It's pretty chonky this time round. On Zoe, we will throw away a Guts. We will throw away a Dr. Henry Armitage. I think we throw away Drawn to the Flame as well, and just assume that Rex can do all the clue guessing at the start. An emergency aid. In fact, what does it say? Yeah, so we can't even use Drawn to the Flame to progress the game at the start. We just have to use standard investigation options. Emergency aid, obviously, we haven't really found a good use for that so far this campaign. And physical training gets thrown away as well. That's a hard mulligan. Let's go 5 more. Stand together, beautiful, right at the start. A 45 automatic, a vicious blow. Well, we were just saying we haven't seen many of those this campaign. A machete and a beat cop. Is this, if you replaced one of these weapons with the other stand together or an emergency cache, I think this would be the ideal starting deck for someone like Zoe. How cool, how interesting. Or the ideal starting hand from this deck that we've made anyway. Let's shuffle the cards that we mulliganed back into the deck. And for Rex Murphy, throw away manual dexterity. Inquiring Mind is kind of good, but I don't like to start with skills. Rex Murphy, actually, let's just slow down. Starting with skills, often not great. But this time, to progress the game, we have to successfully investigate a 3-shroud location. You can only do it once per round, which is interesting. Therefore, I say we keep perception to hopefully pass that initial check and get the game moving as fast as we can, or as early as we can. I've got a plan I think we throw away, and delve too deep. As much as I love the card, I think we throw it away to start off with. Although it could be said, because we can't go up the hill using the ascending path, I guess until we've explored all the other diverging paths, but we can only investigate it once per round per investigator, which means we can only reveal one other location per round. Delve too deep might actually be valid to use right at the start, because there are potentially fewer other priorities that we have or avenues that we could go down. I'm not sure. It feels risky. I would rather get a Dr. Milan, and I would rather get a magnifying glass, maybe Warren Rice or something, and get the economy going. But I should acknowledge that is probably, there was a world in which that was a valid thing to do. So 4 more cards. What do we get? Earl Sawyer, Search for the Truth, Deduction, and a magnifying glass. Well, no Dr. Milan, but we'll take a magnifying glass. Earl Sawyer, I think I'm happy to see. He's a card draw, and he boosts our evasion. Anyway, shuffle these cards back into the deck, and I believe it's time to play. So let's have a closer look at this base of the hill. This is where we started. It's a 3-shroud location, but there are no clues. Base of the hill is connected to each copy of Diverging Path, the ones that we threw off into the top right of the screen. You have to successfully investigate to put a random set-aside Diverging Path into play, which means our first turn is going to be a setup turn, so it doesn't really matter who goes first. Zoe is not going to be moving anywhere without having equipped either a weapon and hopefully a beat cop as well. Let's play our stand together while we're in the same location. That seems to make sense to me. That's 2 resources and 2 cards for both of our investigators. On Zoe, we drew an Evidence and an Unexpected Courage, and on Rex, we've got our Freezing Strange solution and Preposterous Sketches. That was one action. With our second and third action, we put into play Beat Cop and we put into play a Machete 2. And then we are just insanely dripped out, insanely kitted out. Machete is 3 cost, Beat Cop is 4. We had 7 resources, quite nicely. We have to stand together, so it just cleans us out fully. And then one of the simplest setup turns we could have asked for. Rex will equip a magnifying glass. That's free, doesn't cost anything apart from that 1 resource. I think he equips an Earl Sawyer too for 3 resources, takes us down to 3. And then we should investigate with a Perception. There's nothing else to commit, I don't think. Yeah, let's investigate with a Perception. We're testing 4, 5 because of magnifying glass versus 3. Plus 2 from Perception is -4 or up. -4 and up is a success. It's a -1. Thus, no clues to get for Rex. If we succeed, put a random set-aside Diverging Path into play. Diverging Paths are the top ones. Let's just shuffle them to make sure I'm not cheating. Put it into play, but don't reveal it. This is where Zoe will be going next turn. Now I think we play Preposterous Sketches with our second action, taking us down to one resource. I will never get my head around that word. It always just sounds wrong whichever way I try it. And we draw 3 cards. I am noticing, by the way, that it seems like it's a one-way street from base of the hill to diverging path. So we should prepare to maybe not be able to retreat from this place. And we draw 3 cards because of Preposterous Sketches. An Inquiring Mind, the other strange solution, and a shortcut. Okay, well, we're not using the shortcut this turn for sure. We want to keep our investigators together, especially for this early phase. But it does beg the question, which of the strange solutions would I rather have down? Or rather have down first? I say let Zoe do the fighting for now, and if we need help to evade, we should get help to evade. So we play the freezing variant. I haven't used this yet. This does have 4 supplies in comparison to the 3 supplies on the acidic ichor. Means we can run away with a boot value of 6 instead of fighting with a fist value of 6. Both good cards for Rex. But anyway, I'm just rambling on. That is Rex's turn finished. I don't really see anything else that we could have done that turn. The problem is when you have a Guardian, the Guardian is the investigator that you want to go as a vanguard into any new location. I feel like that's right anyway. But also you always need this setup turn for your assets. There's a real limit to how much you can get done on turn 1. Talking to turn 1 is over, or our investigation phase is at least. Enemies. Well, I see no enemies. We've drawn a Guts on Zoe and a Quick Thinking on Rex. Both very, very solid cards. Very, very solid cards indeed. We add a Doom in the Mythos phase and we start drawing our encounters. Let me just check let me double check. Check the campaign log. If the investigators put Silas Bishop out of his misery, we didn't do that. Remnants of the creature's body have mutated and grown on Sentinel Hill. Put 1 Conglomeration of Spheres enemy from the Hideous Abominations encounter set into play at Ascending Path. Shuffle the rest of that set into the encounter deck. I'm double checking that as none of the rest of that happens if we didn't put Silas Bishop out of his misery. Because we banished Silas Bishop, none of that comes into play there. The Conglomeration of Spheres don't bother us. I think I'm understanding that right. Yeah, I believe we are. I think I've done my due diligence in making sure I don't cheat there, but we'll see. Zoe draws. Writes Howled. Revelation, discard the top 3 cards of each investigator's deck. Ooh. Each investigator at an altered location shuffles each weakness in his or her discard pile into his or her deck. Okay, we are not in an altered position, but the diverging path is, or just the altered path? Looks like just the altered path. Let's do it. Discard the top 3, discard 1. Oh no! That's from our hand. I'm a fool. We just have to do this manually, and I'm quite happy to. We discard a... No! We discard a Stand Together. We discard a Machete. Happy about that. And we discard a Brother Xavier. Less happy about that one. And on Rex, we discard Dr. Milan, my old friend, a Guts, and a Preposterous Sketches. Well, discarding Dr. Milan is suboptimal, but we roll with the punches. And that's all we have to do. Rex draws a Crazed Shoggoth. Does have a victory point, a Wooga. 364, nearest altered location. Are there any altered locations? Doesn't seem like there is one. And I know from my Googling last time round, if the spawn circumstance, if the spawn instruction cannot be fulfilled, the encounter card just gets discarded. And although we're missing out on a victory point for this, I think at this early stage, I mean, we could have dealt with it with a machete, perhaps. But I think at this early stage, we're happy for it not to come in the game. Yeah, we miss a victory point, but we're happy that we don't have to deal with it this early on. It does 2 and 2 damage. It would have been disgusting. Let's just discard that for now. A very nice Mythos phase, boys. A very nice Mythos phase indeed. Onto the investigation. Now we do start moving. Now Zoe goes first, and Rex stays in here probably to reveal another diverging path. But Zoe uses one of her actions. Ooh, potentially we should have... Because maybe we need 3 actions to move into this. Or maybe we'll need 3 actions to deal with whatever's in this diverging path. Anyway, I've done it now. It's a... Ooh, it's a good job we didn't use shortcut, because then we'd have had to discard 6 cards. After you reveal Eerie Glade, discard the top 2 cards of your deck for each action you have remaining. It's horrible. It's a 4-shroud location as well, so what are we even doing here? Thankfully, though, it does seem we can move back now. I guess that was just a peculiarity because on the other side of this, we don't know what's on this side face up, so it couldn't say that it connects back to base of the hill. I understand. Well, let's discard those 4 cards from our deck then. Dr. Francis Morgan, he is great. And I've had worse. Drawn to the Flame. Drawn to the Flame would have been really useful. And a physical training. Well, I don't care about the physical training, but I do care about the rest. What to even do here? Even if we drew a Rite of Seeking, somehow, we don't have the money to play it. This unfortunately is just a move back to the base of hill for our second action, and then for our third action, of course we could have stayed here and killed something to get one clue with evidence, I suppose. And then with our last action we draw a card, I think. Yeah, it must be. Rite of Seeking. Well, as we said, we wouldn't have had the money to play it anyway, but maybe we should have stayed in Eerie Glade. I'm not sure. That is an Eerie Glade, by the way. Can you imagine? This is what I found fascinating about games. We're kind of desensitized to all these weird and funky situations that they throw us into. Can you imagine in real life coming across this picture in front of you? It's not even gory. Those are just statues, I think. But all the statues have their heads chopped off. They're all statues of living things with their heads chopped off. Can you imagine how unbelievably unnerving that would be to just come across? You would just instantly have a panic attack. It's straight away, you couldn't avoid it. Oh, by the way, this was after you reveal Eerie Glade, so people moving into Eerie Glade don't have to discard cards, it's just on the first time round, which is a small win, I suppose. That was Zoe's last action. Not a fantastic turn for her, I don't think, really. We need 4 clues to advance, so let's send Rex to reveal another diverging path. He's testing 5 investigation versus 3. And do we commit anything? I think 5 versus 3 is okay. It's a 72% chance. Let's just roll. 5 versus 3. An Elder Sign. +2. Well, that's a success. You may choose instead to fail it and draw 3 cards. Very interesting idea. Very interesting idea. Because if Rex discovers this location, is he going to move into it this turn with 2 actions left? That's the question, really. Rex is going to go to the Eerie Glade. So this first investigation will be an action, then moving to the Eerie Glade will be an action, then investigating Eerie Glade will be an action, and we could potentially use Shortcut to get back, and I think we would do that just so that we can consolidate our investigators. All right, we leave this as a success. We don't invoke the Elder Sign's ability. That was our first action, and we take a diverging path into play. We don't go here. We'll go here with Zoe next turn. We move to Eerie Glade. This is a 4-shroud location, by the way. We only have 5 book at the moment. But we throw an inquiring mind at this. In fact, we'd like to throw even more at it. So at 8 versus 4, currently, we'd like to succeed by 2 or more. Means really we're testing 6 versus 4. We're hoping for a -2 or better. That is only a 72% chance. I almost feel like we should commit something else, but what? Quick thinking. Let's do it. 9 versus 4. Ooh. It's a weird feeling when you throw a load of resources at a skill test and you didn't even need it. It's a weird feeling. It's not a bad feeling. It doesn't mean you've done anything wrong, but it does just feels like you've missed out somehow. Anyway, we investigated here, base of the hill. We moved, that's 2 actions, and then we investigated Eerie Glade. But in that investigation, we played a quick thinking and we did succeed by 2 or more, therefore we get an action back. And of course, getting these 2 clues in the process. Now with that action, getting that action back, I think we could just go straight into base of the hill. Again, consolidating our investigators. Do I have a more favourite phrase or a more favourite short-term objective in this game? I don't think so. I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that turn. On to the enemy phase. There are no enemies so far. And the upkeep phase, we've drawn a Guts on Zoe, that's the second one, and a Hypochondria on Rex, straight into the threat display or the threat area. After you take 1 or more damage, take 1 direct horror. I think while we have less to do early in the game, we should just get rid of that because that can really stack up. The Mythos phase, we're now on 6 out of 12 Doom. Our encounter cards, Zoe has drawn, a Light of Afulgamon. I feel like do we see this in the Devourer below? It is a packed power. It's peril, so Rex's player can't look at this. As a revelation, you must attach Light of Afulgamon to either the current agenda or the current act. Limit 1 per agenda or act. Treat all damage as direct horror and all horror as direct horror. We can't assign it to any of our allies. Well, I believe the act deck is more likely to move on more quickly, so let's attach it to that one. Then for Rex has drawn Spaces Between. Flip each non-Sentinel hill location in play to its unrevealed side, removing all clues from it. Each investigator and enemy at a location flipped in this way immediately moves to the nearest Sentinel hill location. I see, so if we were at any of these sort of spokes of the wheel, if we were at these extremities, we would get thrown back to base of the hill and we'd have to, just spend an action to move back there. But the clues, would they get refreshed? Anyway, we don't need to think about that because it doesn't have an impact. But we shuffle each non-Sentinel hill location so the players do not know which is which. Okay. We flip diverging path. We put this diverging path on top of the other and we shuffle them, and now we don't know which one we've cleared out. Is that correct? Do the clues get added back? If this is relevant, we'll have to Google it. But I think we're all right. I think we're all right with that. We don't hate it. Investigation phase. Well, something I do know is that if we successfully investigate the base of the hill now, whichever diverging path we throw into it, we know we'll have some clues on it. So I think that's the way we go with this. Rex investigates 5 versus 3, hoping for a -2. He doesn't have to over-succeed. 5 versus 3 is good enough. Let's just roll it. Okay. All right, okay. Well, a -5 is definitely a fail. Let's just test again. 5 versus 3. I feel like I need to throw something else at this. No, but I can't. 5 versus 3, let's do it. A 0, all right, success. We successfully find the other diverging path. This does mean that we haven't got rid of Hypochondria this turn, though we need to be aware of that. Let's move here with Rex. See what happens, because Zoe can... Doom! Destroyed path. 3 shroud. After you reveal destroyed path, place 2 doom on it. You can spend an action to investigate. If you succeed, instead of discovering clues, remove 1 doom from destroyed path. So I'm just sort of, wow, I see, I'm staving off the inevitable. It's basically like coming here to kill acolytes with a guardian. Well, we can't do it this turn anyway. Perhaps I should have used a shortcut. Rex's turn is finished. It does mean, though, that there's no point sending Zoe up here at all. That means one of these other 2 locations must have clues, otherwise we're kind of soft-locked. Let's send Zoe to the right one, so she's almost on the side of Rex. Oh, thank God it's the Frozen Spring. I say that like I know what it is, but I mean, thank God it's not the Eerie Glade. And this, I would be much less having a panic attack if I came across this on my woodland walks. It's a 3 shroud location, 2 clues. After you reveal, Frozen Spring, lose the remainder of your actions and immediately end your turn. Alright, well, I will, but I'm not happy about it. Enemy phase, there are no enemies. Upkeep phase. We've drawn a Dr. Henry Armitage on Zoe and a Ward of Protection on Rex. Always good to have in our back pocket. We add a doom to the Mythos tracker, the Mythos phase, the Mythos counter. We're on 9 out of 12. The doom counter in the Mythos phase. We're on 9 out of 12. Hopefully that will go down to 7 out of 12 shortly after Rex successfully investigates the destroyed path. Zoe draws Vortex of Time. Oh my God. Oh my god. We're testing forehead on each investigator at a Sentinel Hill location. Oh, interesting. The locations to the side aren't Sentinel Hill locations. Well, wonderful. We don't have to test that. It could have been really nasty. The combination of light of Aforgamon and hypochondria would have meant that the damage would have been amplified once over at least. Rex draws obscuring fog. You little shit. We attach it to our location. The attached location gets +2 shroud. You can discard it after a successful investigation. This takes that up to a 5 shroud location, which is kind of disgusting. Would it be worth using a ward of protection on this? I actually think it might be. I think we use our ward of protection, because I don't know what else is coming, so I don't know if we have to save it for something. I'm going to use ward of protection just so that this investigation isn't testing against 0 and we don't have to throw like a search for the truth. I want to use search for the truth to draw cards. Yeah, I'm happy with that. We redraw. We put, what does it actually say? Cancel that card's revelation effect. Oh, then take 1 horror. Well, there isn't a revelation effect, so what am I even talking about? We add the doom back. We deal it back into our hand. That's a shame. So what I thought we could just kind of cancel the drawing of the card, but it's only on cards that have a revelation effect that we can cancel. Obscuring fog. Oh, it does. I just keep going around in circles. Why don't I read cards? So we could cancel attaching it to our location. Let's do that. It means we're buying more time. That's the important bit. We're being much more able to remove the doom, and that is very, very important to our game plan. Obscuring fog there, where does it go? It just gets discarded. And we spend a resource, we take a horror, and we put ward of protection in our discard pile, and then we have done the right thing, I think. Now it's our turn. What's Zoe going to do? She can't investigate successfully a 3-shroud location without right of seeking. So, as strange as it is, or as bad as it feels, we take a resource on her, then we play right of seeking, which is that the first time I played it? I think it is, because I've never seen these purple charges before. That cost all of our cash, and then for our final go, our final action, we investigate using head instead of book, and we have forehead. If we succeed, we discover 1 additional clue, which is 2, and we don't want to draw a symbol. Well, actually, we don't care about drawing a symbol. The symbol has its effect. It doesn't mean it's an auto-fail, it just means that we lose all remaining actions and we only have this one left. Okay, we commit a charge from right of seeking. We're testing 4 versus 3, and it is very important that we succeed on this. We're going to throw a guts at this. 6 versus 3. That's an 83% chance. I think that's as much as I'm willing to boost it. -1, fantastic. We get both clues. I honestly do believe that's our first successful right of seeking use this entire campaign, and I've been looking for it every scenario. I like the idea of the card. It says immediately advance. What is cool is Light of Aforgamon gets discarded now. We don't have to worry about that for any longer. We spend the clues. Bit of a shame because Rex's search for the truth is now less useful. Flip over the act deck. Act 1B. A sacrifice made. During your search through the wooded paths around the base of Sentinel Hill, you come across a startling sight. A herd of sheep, a flock of sheep, lays dead upon the ground in a secluded clearing, their bloodied carcasses placed in a strange but careful pattern. Holding your nose against the stench of death, you step over mangled sheet on your way to the center of the odd formation. In the center of the sheep lies the corpse of a man. A clear jewel has been firmly pressed into his forehead, caving in the front of his skull. His eyes are wide, his face contorted in a vision of fear, as if beseeching you for mercy. Though you know better, you check for a pulse. As you touch the man's skin, the jewel in his forehead dissolves, and the woods around you seem to clear. We remove all clues from each location in play. Well, there aren't any. The arcane presence masking the path further up the hill has faded. Reveal ascending path. There hasn't been anything so far that has really lived up to the horror partition of the name Arkham Horror, but this is the first card that has made me feel uncomfortable. Act 2A. Ascending the Hill. Version 3. As you ascend the hill, the environment around you grows increasingly strange and otherworldly. The arcane energy feels even stronger here, crackling in the air and crawling on your skin. It says clues cannot be placed on non-altered locations. It's an objective when an investigator enters Sentinel Peak and vents. Sentinel Peak is this top one, and we need to spend 4 clues to get here. Oh, I didn't mean to turn it over. I didn't see anything. Pretend those 4 clues don't exist. I thought I saw a naked woman on that image, but is that just like one of these, like a Rorschach test or something? I see a picture of like a rock flashed up in front of my eyes for half a second, and I think naked woman. Anyway, Zoe did her job very successfully. Rex now, I think it's still worth it to start removing these dooms, because each doom that we save is effectively a whole turn, and Rex can beat it quite successfully. When you remove a doom here, does it turn into a clue? Doesn't say anything about that, let's assume no. Alright, we're just going to test 5 versus 3 and see what happens, I think. There's no point committing anything. Yeah, 5 versus 3. -1. Alright, one of the dooms gets removed. That was our first action, and for our second action, we just do the same. 5 versus 3, +1 this time. Success, both dooms get taken away. We have bought ourselves some time. Then for our third, is it our third? Yeah, for our third action, do we want to move all the way to Ascending Path? It's the same deal as last time, so the earlier we get Rex here, the better. I think we spend an action to move once to the base of the hill, and then I think we spend our shortcut. Might be a bit frivolous, but we're going to move to Ascending Path on the next turn. This means that Rex is already here at the start of the turn, and he can get investigating. I suppose we could have stayed in base of the hill, not spent a shortcut, and moved here at the start of next turn. Again, if we knew what was in these altered paths when they're revealed, the decisions would be much easier to make. But at this point, let's just be happy we're further along the path. Does mean Zoe's further away to connect, though. Oh, I don't know. There's no point overthinking. Rex's turn is finished. Are there any enemies in play? There aren't. Upkeep. Prepared for the worst on Zoe, which is probably about as useless as it could ever be. We've already got a machete out and a 45 automatic in our hand. And a psychosis on Rex. Both psychosis and hypochondria. A match made in heaven. Psychosis, after you take 1 or more horror, take 1 direct damage. And hypochondria, of course, is the opposite. If you take 1 or more damage, take 1 direct horror. Do they just cycle into each other? Surely not. Surely not, that would be insane. The next time we take any kind of damage, it's a vicious circle, and then psychosis gives us 1 direct damage, and then we take a damage to it, so we take horror, so we take a damage, so we take horror. That can't be how it works. And if that is how it works, then I'm going to house rule that that's not how it works, and in the future I will never take those 2 weaknesses again together. The Mythos phase, we're on 8 out of 12 Doom, very deal-withable. Zoe's encounter card is the Spaces Between. Now this actually is, if we think about it, a boon for us. We've seen this. Each non-Sentinel Hill location is flipped to its unrevealed side, first off. Each investigator and enemy at a location flipped in this way immediately moves to the nearest Sentinel Hill location. So Zoe actually gets centralized, and that's where she wanted to be. Let's do what we should. Let's shuffle them. I don't think we're going to be coming back here, but let's shuffle them anyway. That was the rare, helpful encounter card. And then a thrall. Spawn at the location with the most clues. Well, neither of them have any clues. Let's pretend Sentinel Peak wasn't revealed and has 4 clues. That's just my bad. Means thrall could go at any location, really. Let's spawn it at base of the hill so that Zoe can just deal with it straight away. It spawns at the base of the hill. It then engages Zoe. We get a resource for that. Fantastic. Dare I say it, almost another helpful encounter card. The investigation phase. Now, I think Rex goes first. He investigates versus 3, 5 versus 3 again. And then I'd really like to get rid of one of these psychosis or hypochondria. Let's do it. Occultist. Reveal another... Oh, what I didn't do, and I haven't even put it on the board, I didn't look at the scenario chaos bag reference. So a skull is -1, but -3 instead if you're at an altered location. Cultist, which we've just seen, is reveal another token, cancel the effects and icons of each skill card committed to this test. Wow. A tablet is a -2, -4 instead if it's agenda 2. And an elder thing, we don't have one of these, remember, but we'll read it anyway. -X. Discard the top 2 cards of your deck. X is the total printed cost of those discarded cards. Disgusting. Well, we reveal another token. We don't have to do anything with that because we didn't commit any skill cards, which is nice. And then a -3. That's a fail. And that is a shame. That's a real shame, actually, because we are going to have to roll again. Now, is it worth throwing a search for the truth at this? Ooh, I don't know, man. I don't know. Let's just test again. 5 versus... Okay. Well, we would have failed if we threw search for the truth at it anyway, would we? No, 5 versus 3, we would have succeeded. And just wasting actions because I don't want to get rid of a cool card. Oh, let's throw it out. We need to investigate. We're now testing 8 versus 3. Well, it's a -5. I feel vindicated. It's rough because it's a -5, but it doesn't matter because we succeed anyway. It's a real shame we had to get rid of search for the truth. That's why I will say. What we'll throw on is an altered path. Shuffle them to make sure I don't cheat. Move this diverging path down a little bit so that we're kind of moving up the hill graphically. And then we're pretty sad, to be honest. We still have both of these weaknesses in play. It's real nasty. Then Zoe has a simple turn. She attacks the thrall once. She's testing 6 versus 2. And we just roll on that, I think. Anything better than a -4 and we succeed. Cultist. Okay, it would have, if we threw prepared for the worst at it, it would have cancelled, so that's good. That's what I was thinking about doing. And it's a skull. That's just -1. So we definitely succeed. The thrall gets killed. We spend an action. What else happens? That's it. We then move Zoe to ascending path. 1 action. And then I almost wonder if I should stay in the central location just because I'm not sure what's going to come out of the encounter deck. Well, actually, that's answered it itself. I don't know what's going to come out of the encounter deck. What I was worried about was those, is it called spaces between? But there's no point trying to predict what's coming out because we don't know what else is in here. So let's, for our final action, move Zoe to this altered path. Okay, it's a 3-shroud location and there are 2 clues here. After you reveal a tear in the path, again, what a terrifying sight. You take 2 damage if you have no actions remaining. Okay, I fought, base of the hill, I moved, and then I moved. I have no actions remaining, great. So, it's the opposite to the other diverging path. We take 2 damage. No point putting it on B-Cop, we want to... Is there point putting it on B-Cop? No, because we want to use the damage to do damage to other things. Not one of my finest turns. Although I didn't really do anything that wrong, but I mean, it's not one of my best turns for sure. On to the enemy phase. Again, there are none. Upkeep. Drawn to the flame on Zoe. Interesting. And a quick thinking on Rex. All right, Rex's hand is looking rather empty. 1 doom on the doom counter. We're now on 9 out of 12. It is heating up just a little bit. Encounter cards. For Zoe, discard the top 3 cards of each investigator's deck. Each investigator at an altered location shuffles each weakness in his or her discard pile into his or her deck. That would apply to Zoe. Ugh. So first we discard anyway. Zoe's cross. Emergency aid. Internal injury. Okay, what did it say? Each investigator at an altered location shuffles each weakness in his or her discard pile into his or her deck. The weakness goes back in. Were there any more? I don't think so. Yeah, no more weaknesses here. Discard 3 on Rex. Shortcut, magnifying glass, and the other Dr. Milan Christopher. It's a joke. Hopefully we'll find Professor Warren Rice soon. Get out of here. Horrible boy. Wrights howled. And on Rex, a devotee of the key 333 humanoid sorcerer spawned at the base of the hill. Well, let's spawn him at the base of the hill. At the end of the enemy phase, devotee of the key moves once towards Sentinel Peak. If devotee of the key is already at Sentinel Peak, discard it and add 2 doom to the current agenda instead. It does 1-1 damage. We need to intercept this bad guy before it gets there, before he gets there. Cool. Interesting. Right, it's our go again. Rex is really going to have to get rid of these weaknesses. It's not fun. But we need to successfully investigate the ascending path so that we can get more clues. Zoe really needs to stay in the central location so that she can intercept the devotee of the key next turn. Right, we're going to do Rex's turn first. We're testing 5 versus 3, and again, it just doesn't feel good. But in a way, let's throw a deduction at it, which is a strange idea, I admit. We're testing 7 versus 3 now, anything better than a -4, but we need this to succeed, and we don't need this to, we would like this to succeed. 7 versus 3 is okay. Anything including a -4 is a success, and then we'll use the other 2 actions hopefully to get rid of one of these weaknesses. Okay. I understand. Yeah, that's fine. We need to get rid of one of these, man. We need to get rid of psychosis. I don't want to take 2 direct damage. I know that we're kind of, feels like we have a slow game somehow. It feels like we've slowed ourselves down just a bit. We're not progressing, but we need to get rid of that way to take direct damage. I mean, I say we needed to. That's just how I believe it to be. Well, Sawyer actually has 3 health soaks, so maybe we're not in such a bad situation. I just know that things can go wrong so fast. Now for Zoe's turn. Zoe needs to end up, or would like to end up, back in ascending path, really, which means I think we use our Drawn to the Flame. It costs us nothing, just an action. We draw the top card of the encounter deck. It is an Altered Beast, but there are no abomination enemies in play, so it gains Surge. We draw another one. Dissonant Voices. That's alright, we put that into play in a threat area. We cannot play assets or events. Fine, because we get these 2 clues from the altered path, the tear in the path. Then we move once back into the ascending path, and I suppose this is where it does come in to be a bit annoying. All I can really do is sit here and either get a card or get a resource. Now, which do we want to do? I think we are carded up to the gills, so let's just get a resource. We get rid of it at the end of the round, which is after the upkeep phase. Are there enemies? Yes. At the end of the enemy phase, it moves once towards Sentinel Peak. Okay, so it's here. He's on top of us. Let's engage Zoe with the devotee of the key. We get a resource for that. The upkeep phase. We've drawn another beat cop on Zoe. I don't really know what we're waiting for on Zoe. Maybe Brother Xavier might be nice, but apart from that, I think we've kind of got everything that we needed to get. Another beat cop on Zoe and a Pathfinder on Rex. Almost think Pathfinder might be surplus to requirements if Sentinel Peak is the final area that we need to get to. Not sure. Anyway, Dissonant Voices gets discarded at least. That's something. And we added Doom. We're now on 10 out of 12. Slowly but surely stacking up. Encounter cards. Zoe has... Zoe has a Frozen in Fear. We've seen that before. The first time you perform either move, fight, or evade each round, it costs an additional action. At least we're in a good space to be testing willpower against it, I suppose. On Rex, Altered Beast. Again, that just gains Surge because there are no abominations in play. Ooh. Oh, it's really nasty. Alright, it's really nasty. I see what's going to happen here. The Avian Thrall, its prey is the lowest book. Now, actually, what happens if I draw an enemy from the encounter deck and it has prey on it? Could it jump to the other investigator at our location? Let me just have a look at that. Okay, so even though Avian Thrall has fray. Because Rex drew Avian Thrall, it engages Rex. As a reminder, it's a 5/4/3 creature monster abomination, and it's a hunter, and this is the one where you can't use the machete on it, or if you do, it's really hard to kill it. You need to be using a firearm. Which is fine because we do have a firearm, just means you need to spend an action to equip it, really. Anyway, not the worst Mythos phase, but this Avian Thrall is doing 1/1 damage, and it will trigger hypochondria. So I suppose we just want to be evading it. Okay, right. Zoe needs to kill the devotee of the key. That's very important. We only need to hit it once, though, which will take 2 actions, unfortunately. Then for that last action, we equip our 45 automatic. That's all we do. That's all we do this turn. That's what makes most sense to me. We're testing at the moment 5, 6 because of our assets versus 3. 6 versus 3. That means anything better than a -3, but that's only an 83% chance. To me, that feels kind of bad. I think we throw an unexpected courage at it. It's very important that we kill this devotee of the key. Now we're testing 6 versus 3, 8 versus 3. Anything but an auto fail. Fantastic, it's a skull. Fantastic, it's a skull. How often do you hear that? I suppose you're more likely to hear it in Arkham Horror than you are in real life. The devotee of the key takes 2 HP damage. Thank you very much. And also we exhaust Beat Cop, put a damage onto him, and kill devotee of the key. Unfortunately, though, that took us 2 actions because of Frozen in Fear. Then, as we said, our last action will be equipping the 45 automatic with the intent to kill the Avian Thrall next turn. That cost 4 monies. Zoe's turn is finished. Let's test versus 3 head. Do we want to chuck a guts at this? I actually think we throw Dr. Henry Armitage at it. I don't see us needing the money that he can give us to play anything, really. This means we're 6 versus 3, which is a much better chance of rolling. -3 or better, and we're in the money. -1, fantastic. Frozen in Fear gets got. Now for Rex. What Rex would like to do, ideally, is evade Avian Thrall and then investigate this location successfully, but obviously you can't guarantee that. And then potentially move away? I'm not sure. Anyway, we're testing 4 versus 3 currently, which doesn't feel fantastic. Oh! Look at this, we have a strange solution freezing variant for evading. We evade with a base skill of 6 boot. Let's do that. 1 action, 1 supply of the strange solution. We test 6 versus 3. 7 versus 3 because we have Earl Sawyer. Anything better than a -4 is a 6. Oh, I hate it, man. I hate it. All right, 1 action done. Spend another solution. Let's spend another supply of the solution. Let's roll again. It's a cultist. Reveal. We didn't commit anything. That's good. Reveal another token. -3. All right, we succeed this time round. Avian Thrall gets evaded. We, luckily, draw a card because of Earl Sawyer. It is a deduction. And that was our second action. Now we just investigate 5 versus 3, and we throw a quick thinking at it. 6 versus 3. Yeah, 6 versus 3. Let's see what happens. 0. Fantastic. Successfully investigated. We pull another altered path into play. Did we succeed by 2 or more? What was that? A minus... What did I just draw? I'm going to go back and look. I've completely forgotten. How ridiculous is that short-term memory? Because it wasn't immediately useful to remember the actual number. It just completely vanished out my brain. I'll be back in a sec. Right, it was a 0. And we were testing... Well, we would have been testing 5, 6 versus 3. So we did succeed by 2 or more. Thus, we still have an action left. Do we want to move to altered path here? Do we want to move to altered path here? Yeah, I think we do with Rex Murphy. It feels like it could be a little dangerous, but any information that we gain here is useful. Oh, dimensional gap. Oh, shit. It's a 3 shroud with 2 clues. After you reveal dimensional gap, discard cards from the top of the encounter deck until an enemy is discarded. Spawn that enemy here. Okay. Worrying. Vortex of Time. Light of a Forgamon. Beyond the Veil. Thrall. Thrall is alright, you know. We're happy with Thrall. Out of everything that I bet could have come out of this encounter deck, I think Thrall is up there with the enemies that we want to see. Does mean that we'd take 2 horror when it's going to attack us and 1 HP damage, but we're just going to have to deal with that, I think. Rex's turn done. Zoe's turn done as well. It was the investigation phase. We now move on to the enemy phase. The Thrall attacks us, as I said, doing 1 HP damage, which we put on Earl Sawyer. We can put 1 sanity on him too, and then take a sanity damage ourselves. The upkeep phase, we drew another Rite of Seeking on Zoe, and then I've got a plan on Rex. This actually might have come in very handy, but we don't have any clues. Unfortunately. Rats. Not yet, anyway. Hopefully we will have soon. We'll just have to evade Thrall. We have to evade Thrall, then investigate, and then use I've got a plan. Maybe, but maybe it's not even worth killing the Thrall. Actually, we don't gain anything from it, so... the Avian Thrall did get readied up again and thus engages Zoe once more. In the Mythos phase, we're now on 11 out of 12 Doom. It's the Witching Hour. Zoe draws a Thrall herself. Another resource. Rex draws a Rotting Remains. We test head. Now we're on 3 versus 3. I don't like 3 versus 3, but it seems like there's nothing we can do about it. Higher education doesn't kick in because we don't have 5 or more hands. 5 or more cards in our hands, so we just test and see what happens. 3 versus 3. -5. Okay, we take 3 whole horror. Could have killed, that actually would have killed Zoe. She would have been dead by now. Rex is not dead, but he's not loving it. Well, at least when Rex soaks up those rotting remains, then Zoe doesn't have to. Alright, Zoe's turn is shooting Avian Thrall, shooting it twice, and then using a machete on normal, non-Avian Thrall, I believe. Let's do that. We are testing 6 versus 2 for the Avian Thrall, and we just roll -2. This can go quite fast. That's a success on our first action. 6 versus 2 on our second action, -1. Also a success. Avian Thrall dies. Now for our last action, we smack away at the normal Thrall, and again it's 6 versus 2. Ooh, an occultist, okay. And a 0, fantastic. A very, very simple but nice turn on Zoe. Of course, we get rid of those 2 ammo on the 45 automatic. That is a whole turn used, though, unfortunately. Now, we're trying to run away from the Thrall. We're testing 4 versus 2, which might actually be... I'm just wondering whether I want to use one of these supplies on Strange Solution. Yeah, I think we do. I think we use one. I'm imagining that there's a boss up here. That's the only thing I'm worried about. We're testing 7 versus 2. This really should succeed. -5, it only just does. 2 versus 2 in the end, so it's a good job we used this Strange Solution. That was an action. Thrall gets evaded, and Earl Sawyer gets exhausted. We draw a card, which is always nice. Professor Warren Rice, that's doubly nice. We have 2 actions left. One of those actions should be investigating the dimensional gap. We'd be testing 5 versus 3. Let's throw a deduction at it to test 7 versus 3, and it also means that we don't have to over-succeed to get the extra clue. We just need to succeed. 7 versus 3, -2, fantastic. We get both clues from the dimensional... Was it the dimensional gap? Was our second action. For our last action, we centralize ourselves. Yeah, we go back to the ascending path, ready to move up into Sentinel Peak. Next turn, maybe? Or maybe we have another kind of interim midlife crisis setup turn. Anyway, the point is that that's the end of Rex's go. The enemy phase, nothing happens, there are none. We dealt with them masterfully. Zoe draws a 45 automatic, Rex an Inquiring Mind. The thrall gets, what would you say, unexhausted as well. He readies up. Or she readies up, they ready up. I think that's a she. Anyway, Mythos, 12 out of 12. We move on to the agenda. We move on the agenda deck, taking all the doom away. Agenda 1B. The world is altered. As you explore the paths surrounding Sentinel Hill, the chanting at the hilltop rises to a crescendo and takes an otherworldly quality, reverberating through the trees as if carried by unseen currents. The world begins to change. The grass and trees dissolve like sugar in a cup of tea. A vast, endless sky slices through the reality you see before you, and you feel drawn to it, terrified and awestruck. The arcane power becomes distorted and seeps around you, creating strange alterations in the land. Shuffle the encounter discard pile into the encounter deck. Let's do that. Agenda 2A. Beckoning for power. The old ones were, the old ones are, and the old ones shall be, not in the places we know but between them. They walk serene and primal, undimensioned and to us unseen. Yog-Sothoth knows the gate. Yog-Sothoth is the gate. Yog-Sothoth is the key and guardian of the gate. Past, present, future, all are one in Yog-Sothoth. He knows where the old ones broke through of old, and where they shall break through again. He knows where they have trod earth's fields and where they still tread them, and why no one can behold them. And there's 10 doom to move on to this, which does insinuate to me that we have a fair amount of time to set up our investigators, ideally, before we go to Sentinel Peak. We have the 4 clues ready. It's just a case of, am I prepared for what is there when I go up there, I suppose? What would we like to get? I think we'd like to get Professor Warren Rice because, unfortunately, I've kind of revealed that there are clues on this location because I flipped it over accidentally with a hotkey. Professor Warren Rice doesn't feel bad. I feel like Pathfinder is unnecessary. I think we'd just like to get more cards. We'd just like to see more. We would like to maybe get a Brother Xavier on Zoe, perhaps? It's all I can think of, really. Otherwise, we're kind of set. Yeah, just our other allies. That's all. Just a Brother Xavier. Francis Morgan is in the discard pile, isn't he? So we can't get him out. Anyway, let's draw encounter cards. Avian Thrall on Zoe. She gets a resource. We will be shooting that out the sky on the next turn, hopefully. Rex draws Visions of Futures Past. Test against 5 head. For each point you fail by, discard the top card of your deck. Wasn't there a Beyond the Veil in this? I've just realised there is a Beyond the Veil. Thankfully, there's 41 cards, because we sort of padded it out. But there is Beyond the Veils. We need to be careful about having a low deck size. Crikey. And then, what did I do earlier? That's ridiculous. If anyone has played this scenario before, I'm sure they screamed at me. What did I use Ward of Protection on? An Obscuring Fog. That is hilarious. Okay, noted, if there is a Beyond the Veil in the encounter deck, especially when you've got a Seeker, save your Ward of Protection for Beyond the Veil. I think that's the best way. Well, lesson learned. Hopefully we've kind of learned the lesson without having to suffer the cost, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, for now, we test Visions of Futures Past. We're at 3 versus 5 currently. That feels kind of nasty. Do we want to be getting through this deck as fast as possible? Perhaps so that it's filled out again if we drew a Beyond the Veil. Let's just test. 3 versus 5. It's a cultist, reveal another one. And it's a skull. Are we at an altered location? Does the central one count? It doesn't. It's just a -1. Therefore, we discard 3 cards. Cryptic Research. Delve too deep. And a Manual Dexterity. Alright, kind of nasty. It's a shame about the Cryptic Research. We could have used that on Zoe, really. But anyway, on to the investigation phase. I'm a bit scared about this short deck now. Let's take this opportunity to get rid of hypochondria. Just want, it's like it's a loop that needs closing. And then also play Professor Rice. Let's do it. 3 resources. 1, 2, 3, and that's our last action. Maybe we should have played Acidic Ichor because we might need to fight. That probably was the better decision to make. Do I dare take it back? Now let's leave it. Let's just do it next turn. We've got time. This is the cool thing about having, 10 Doom on this. Unless I'm missing something huge, we seem to have a lot of time, and we're almost at the end of the scenario. Or at the end of the scenario that I can see. Maybe there's 5 other levels that get added on and we get shagged by the time, but we'll see what happens. Zoe's turn is shooting the avian thrall twice. We're testing 6 versus 2. And let's just roll a 0. In fact, what I should have done to save on actions is use a vicious blow, but we didn't do that anyway. Avian thrall gets 2 damage put onto him. We then spend another bullet and shoot again, 6 versus 2, and this is a -1, so Avian Thrall is killed. Did take us 2 actions, though, which I'm less pleased about. What we can do with this last action is replace our 45 automatic to get it full up again. Costs us 4 resources, of course. Like I said, that's kind of a setup turn within, or a setup turn after the start of the game. Nothing happens in the enemy phase because the only one is a thrall, and the thrall is not a hunter. In the upkeep phase, we've drawn another evidence on Zoe and a seeking answers on Rex. Not the most useful that I can think of. We add a Doom onto the Doom counter. We have drawn an obscuring fog, which is a bit of a whiff on Zoe. And we've drawn spaces between on Rex. This is an incredibly innocuous Mythos phase. All that happens is the altered path gets flipped. Well, actually, Thrall does move onto our location because of this. And technically, we have to shuffle these locations. The Thrall engages Zoe. She can deal with that very easily and, in fact, gets a bonus resource because of it. It's our turn again. Let's kill. Let's kill the Thrall to start off with. That's just very simple to do. 6 versus 2. We test 0. We succeed. The Thrall is dead. That's an action. We then move into Sentinel Peak. I'm going to do it. It might be wrong because we don't have the actions, or we're kind of down 1 action, I suppose, to deal with whatever's here. Sentinel Peak. Oh my god, it was not a naked woman. How ridiculous. It actually is a rock. It's a rock. It's a rock, and I genuinely saw a flash of a naked woman. You can cut... In my head, it's kind of... She's leaning back on her arms, and then she has her head kind of tilted back. That's insane. I feel like such a pig. You can kind of see where I'm coming from. I hope you can anyway. Like her chin and her jaw are kind of up in the air, pointed, and her hair is flowing back down to the right. Oh god. Oh, trying to justify being a chauvinist pig. Sentinel Peak is a 4-shroud location, and there are 4 clues on here. When an investigator at this location draws a hex card, that investigator takes 1 damage. 2 victory points. Alright, but we also flip this, don't we? Ascending the hill, yeah, we do. Wait, what? When an investigator enters... Oh, sorry. I was just skipping one of the cards. Act 2B. Will the change. Approaching the peak of Sentinel Hill, you are confronted by several citizens of Dunwich. The man in the center of their circle is desperately trying to complete a Latin incantation. "It's not working, Seth," one of the other men cries out. "What are we going to do?" The man in the center stops his chant and pulls out a cobbler's knife. "The father demands some blood sacrifice," he declares, and his face twists into a crazed expression. Before you can react, he slits his left wrist with the knife, dropping to his knees in agony. The headstone of the altar behind him splits open. A torrent of energy pours out of the stone, coalescing into the form of an open gate. Seth holds onto the stone in front of him to prevent himself from being sucked into the gate, but several of the others are startled and pulled through it. You barely manage to dig your heels in and grab hold of a nearby rock in time to resist the pull of the gate. Seth rises, wounded but alive. An expression of pride spreads across his pained face. Put the set-aside Seth Bishop enemy into play at Sentinel Peak. This makes much more sense than just jumping to a resolution. With 1 per investigator damage on him, that is 2. Well, it's something out of what? Oh, he only has 6. Does have 5 fists, though. That's nasty. And retaliate, so we have to... Ooh, I see, it's nasty. And we didn't include any overpowers in this deck, so maybe that'll come back to bite us. Act 3A. The gate opens. From the ruins of the headstone on the altar at the hill's peak, a gateway of churning, vibrant energy has appeared. A force like a hurricane erupts from the gate, bending trees and pulling debris into it. The howling of the gale drowns out all other sound. Somehow, you must find a way to close the gate. Only investigators at Sentinel Peak may spend the requisite number of clues as a group to advance. That is 4. That's all the clues that are at Sentinel Peak. Kind of feels like we don't have to kill Seth Bishop to win. He's just a way of getting a victory point. Am I right in that? We could just clear out Sentinel Peak to flip this over. I would like to attempt to kill Seth Bishop. It seems to... when we flipped this over before, we didn't mean to. There was only 1 resolution on the other side, so does it matter if you kill Seth Bishop? Kind of feels like it doesn't. So could we just put Seth Bishop onto Zoe? Well, she gets a resource for that anyway. He only does 1 and 1. I feel like I'm missing something. I definitely feel like I'm missing something. If we were to fight him, we'd be testing 6 versus 5 each time, which is a -1. It's a 55.5% chance, actually, but he does retaliate, doing horror damage to us. Tell you what we could do. We can exhaust Beat Cop and at least do 1 damage to Seth, meaning we only have to hit him once with a vicious blow to kill him. Is that true? Can that be true? He has 6 health. Yeah, he does. All right, let's do that with our last action of the turn. We commit a vicious blow. That's +2. We also commit prepared for the worst. We should put these in the threat area, actually, so we remember. Let's also commit a Beat Cop. We're at +1, +3, +4. We're now testing 10. 10 versus... where is he? 10 versus 5, but we would like to succeed by more than 2 so we get the damage. No, it doesn't matter. We're doing 2 damage from our weapon and then 1 from Vicious Blow just anyway. So a 10 versus 5, anything better than an auto fail? 0. Is that it? Feels like a bit disappointing. Well, Seth Bishop goes in the victory display. At least that's an experience point for us. All these cards get discarded. And then it's Zoe's turn finished. Rex moves 1 up for an action. Rex investigates with Inquiring Mind. This is interesting. Seeking Answers. We could get clues from here with Seeking Answers. Anyway, we use Inquiring Mind to take us up to what? It's a +3. That's ridiculous. 7 plus Magnifying Glass. 8 plus 1 of Professor Warren Rice. 9. 9 to 4. Is that good enough? It's going to have to be. 9 to 4. -2. 7 to 4. We pass by 2 or more, which means we do get 2 clues of this. That's an action done. Then for our last action, I almost think, well, we're not going to get both clues of this. I almost think this is a draw a card situation. In fact, it is. Although, do we have to spend an action to move this on? We don't. If we succeed with Seeking Answers, we then get 2 clues. Because it's discover 2 total clues from among your location and connecting locations. It can just be from our location, I believe. let's try it. Let's just throw the book at it. Or literally throw the book at it, because we're throwing book skill icons at the test. Ha. What did we say we were before? 4 + 1 + 1 is 6. 7 from I've Got a Plan. And then 8 from Seeking Answers. Anything else? No. Anything from... Hey, Zoe actually could have played an evidence here. So I didn't do it at the time, did I? Let's not cheat. She could have played an evidence while after she killed that enemy. I've lost count now. We were on... I'm so sorry about this. This must be absolutely painful to watch. 4 plus Magnifying Glass 5 plus War and Rice 6 plus I've Got a Plan 7 plus Seeking Answers 8. 8 versus 4. 8 versus 4 is as good as we're going to get, so let's do it. A tablet. -2 but -4 instead if it's Agenda 2. It is Agenda 2, but it doesn't matter, we still pass, which means we get both these clues, we don't have any actions left, we actually exhaust Professor Warren Rice and draw a card, which is interesting. We discard Seeking Answers and I've Got a Plan. Discard the spaces in between that was from last Mythos phase. And then we move on the Act deck. Act 3B. Peer into the abyss. You don't know how to close the swirling gate before you, and with each passing moment the force from within it grows in strength. You fear that whatever entity the sorcerers have summoned from beyond approaches. With no time to spare, you turn to the open tome on the stone altar, desperate for answers. It's the end of the scenario. Fantastic. Resolution 1. The poorly bound tome appears to be the written records of old Whately, the man who taught Wilbur the ancient secrets of sorcery. You find a passage describing a place outside of time and space, where worlds converge and Yog-Sothoth dwells. Only by reaching this nexus at the edge of reality can you unmake the tear that has split open the world. Feeling as if you may be going to your doom, you muster a final ounce of courage and step into the gate. In your campaign log, record that the investigators entered the gate. Well, I didn't have a choice. Is this writing anywhere? I've reached the bottom of the page. What is going on here? Where am I typing? Investigators entered the gate. There we are. What else? Is that it? So killing Seth Bishop didn't really do anything. Oh, shouldn't have looked at that. I mean, I only lingered on for a second. Yeah, there we go. Scenario 7, Lost in Time and Space, is next. Well, weird scenario. What I would like to do, and I'm allowing myself to do this now because I've finished the scenario, are there any other victory points in this load of... There is a Beyond the... There's another Beyond the Veil. Are there any victory points here? Because we don't... Getting one from a scenario is kind of ridiculous. Oh, there is a Wizard of Yog-Sothoth here. 4, 3, and 3. I think that's what I thought the Wizard of the Order was last scenario, when I was surprised it didn't have a victory point. So there is one victory point there, but that's it. Oh, the crazed Shoggoth, which would have been kind of nasty to deal with. All right, there's a couple. We just missed out. That's fine. Scenario is over. I enjoyed this one. I enjoyed this one more. Now, the question is, why is this enjoyable and something like Blood on the Altar wasn't? Because I don't think it was that different in a way. They kind of have the same, you're kind of just looking around, exploring locations without having to fight too much to get to your final location where there is a boss battle and you have to gather some clues. So why was this one more fun? I don't know. I enjoyed it. I hope you did too. Next time we'll play the last scenario, Lost in Time and Space, and we'll have we have 3 victory points because of Sentinel Peak. We have 3 whole victory points to spend in the interim, but I will see you next time.